Alright, so you want to be good at Roblox sword fighting. So, you've come to the right place. So what you want to do is that, so as a beginner, so I'm just going to start from the really beginner newbie stuff, and I'll just sort of work the way up in like skill and sort of just give you the tips and stuff. So basically, beginner, you want to have your shift lock on. If you don't have that, you're pretty screwed. So put on your shift lock, and that's like step one. And alright, so let's go into it. Alright, enjoy me, little buddy. Alright. So me and my Romanian friend, right, we're gonna be showing you some stuff. So the first thing is that with your sword, you got your sword, there's two main actions, or there's actually three actions. One action is just the idle position where it does nothing. Second one is just a single slash, and that doesn't do much damage. Look, you can just, oh shit, that did a lot of damage, but okay, ignore that. And then you got the double click, right, which does a lot more. You see his health down, his health went down a lot faster, right? And so once he gets sort of the clicking, slashing thing done with and sort of used to, you can sort of like move on to the other stuff. So, but the main thing you want to do though at this level is you probably just want to double click. Double clicking does the most damage, so when you're fighting someone, you probably always want to like double click into them, because that will kill them the fastest, right? And that's how you win the game. So a simple trick is, alright, so Chris, right, just start walking towards me with your sword out and sort of like keep on slashing it. Keep on like, yeah. So what you can do is you can sort of, if they're coming towards you and rushing you, you can sort of jump to the side and you can double click and it will sort of take them out of it. So you do it again, just keep on lunging while you're doing it. See, it's sort of good. It only works on like the dumbass people though, because if they're actually confident with sword fighting, that always wouldn't necessarily work, which is why I'm going to show you some more stuff. So, right, so we got the new thing. So we're going to the more advanced stuff. So you got to decide your camera angle, right? So there's quite a few main camera angles. Me personally, right, I choose to have my camera straight up in the sky, looking directly down, because it gives me the perfect distance of people's swords to each other and stuff, so I can really estimate distances really well, and it helps with predicting timing and stuff, which we'll get onto later. But you don't have to choose this. You can choose sort of like this position where you get to see. There's positives and negatives, because if you have your camera angle like this, you get to sort of see the elevation, so you get to know when people are jumping more. But when you have your camera up like this, oh, let me turn down my fucking music. This is loud. And when you have your camera up like this, you don't get to see people's jumping so much. But don't worry though, you can normally tell if they're jumping, and it's not normally an issue. So I actually recommend to use the camera angle I'm using right now. It's usually the best, and it's what I've always had the most success with. And so another thing you want to know is wiggling. So the way damage is actually calculated in swords is it's from the amount of limbs your sword actually touches with. Okay, so basically look. As you can see, 90, 80, right? But if I do this, and I go, he's dead, because I hit loads and loads of limbs, right? So that sort of just shows that. And there's something else you can do. So yeah, so we've gone to wiggling. So when you're fighting someone, right, you want to sort of shake around your camera, so you'll most likely just hit loads and loads of their limbs, and you'll kill them even faster than just doing your regular double tapping, right? So, you know, alright, Chris, let's get back into the arena. It ended. Alright, let's get back in here. And so another thing as well is you'll sort of want to learn how to make unpredictable movements and start juking around. So one main thing you want to do is sort of, alright, so Chris, just sort of come at me, just sort of like go back and forth and come at me, right? So what you want to do is sort of just do weird moves, try and make your movements unpredictable, because then it'll make them harder to attack, and then maybe randomly, right, out of nowhere, you go in for the kill, and you take him out. So you want to be unpredictable with your movements, shift, unshift a lot, and you're pretty unpredictable, and it sort of makes it better. But don't repeat your movements, don't do patterns. Sort of maybe, instead of just like looping around stuff, you just randomly start going to the left or something, and that'll just start confusing them and stuff like that. And another thing as well is that you want to choose your play style. We're getting to the point where you want to choose your playstyle. There's multiple playstyles when it comes to sword fighting. I'm a pretty balanced player. I'm very balanced with my defense and my attack. But basically, an attackive player, whatever. How the fuck do you say it? Anyways, a player who focuses more on their attacks, right? They'll normally W hold more, and they'll just go straight in for the kill like that. But in, like, maybe the beginning of the match. But there's some people, right, who are really defensive. So Chris, just come with me. I'll do a defensive playstyle, and they sort of just like hang back a bit, and they don't really do anything for a while, and they sort of wait until you make a really stupid decision, and that's when they sort of take advantage of it, right? So, and then normally right at the end, they go in for the kill. But some people are even more annoying than that. Some people are what we call S holders, and they just keep on going back and they never attack, and they're really fucking annoying. You don't want to do this shit, right? And then they go like, oh, I got you, and then yeah, well done, you fucking got me from S holding the whole time. But yeah, there's multiple types of play styles. Just choose the one you like more, and yeah, probably just choose to be more balanced is best. I don't know, you need to sometimes just go for the rush, because sometimes they make stupid decisions without even having to come towards you. And yeah, so before I go into like the really, really advanced stuff, so the stuff I'm going to say from now on is what really distinguishes you from most quote-unquote like advanced sword fighters. This is sort of where the best of the best hang around, and this makes all the difference when it comes to sword fighting. It's usually what people have trouble getting their heads around, because this stuff is pretty tricky to understand, and some people just don't have the time to practice this as well. So one other thing as well you gotta know is that sword fighting, right, it's an art. You gotta know that sword fighting, it requires patience, and sometimes you're in a fight, and maybe your player, maybe the dude you're playing is actually playing really well, and they're doing a really good defensive, offensive strategy, and you can't really get past them, right, and you can't really get the kill. Normally, if you just stay defensive, you don't do anything, let them do the stupid decisions, you will be wearing out their mental endurance. It's all fighting about mental endurance, yeah? You gotta make sure that they're the one making the stupid decisions, because anytime, if you're getting bored, right, maybe you're just going for the rush, and usually rushing in sword fighting is what causes you to die. Because, you know, you're just tired, and it's sort of stupid, because they could easily do one of the moves I told you earlier, where they sort of just jump around you and do that, and they sort of kill you, yeah? And so, you gotta want to tire out your opponents from just mentally, right? You gotta fucking get to them. And so, we're getting to the distinguished stuff. So distinguished tips, which make you really, really good, is that you want to be careful about your jumping. Most people say, Chris, just come on and fight me, just come on, like. So, you want to be careful about your jumping. You don't want to always jump so much. You want to sort of hang around the ground, and this is because when your opponent jumps, right, you sort of have the hitbox to hit them absolutely anywhere on their body, and you can deal a huge amount of damage. While if you're laying low on the ground, when they're jumping, they can't actually hit you. And so only jump a little bit, and jump when it's really necessary, and then yeah, just be careful about your jumping, because if you jump right before, so I'll show an example. So I'll jump before, right? I'll just keep on jumping. Chris, just come and attack me, right? I'll keep on jumping. I'll keep it. Oh, I fucking got you. That wasn't meant to happen. Chris, come on, Chris. So wait, let's go back into it. Alright, so right, I'll be jumping around, right? And if you're jumping around, it sort of gives them the opportunity to sort of get you. I know I was being a bit idiotic there, and I wasn't really aiming at him, but jumping all the time is usually a negative thing. And so another tip I want to come to is sort of your S holding. Don't S hold too much, because then there's actually plenty of counters against S holding, which I'll tell you later. And so another thing as well is, you know, like I talked about playstyles earlier, you want to be able to shift in between playstyles, because if you notice something about your opponent, so say your opponent is really, really offensive, and he's very good at just W holding on you, you probably want to play more defensively, because then you can wait until they sort of get tired and they start making errors in their movements. Because sword fighting, it's like a game of chess, yeah? The only reason you win a game is because your opponent makes a mistake. So you just gotta wait until they make a mistake. And of course, if they're always being offensive, there's not enough time for them to make a mistake, right? So sometimes you want to shift from doing a really defensive strategy, and other times you want to be really offensive, maybe just go straight to the kill. And the reason why that will sometimes work is because if you go straight to the kill and they're not expecting it, maybe they're not prepared yet, because they're going to think you're just going to start shifting around and not really doing anything. But no, out of nowhere, you fucking go out and get them, yeah? That's the way it works. So, yeah, playstyle changing is really good. And now, another thing, which very few people know about, is, okay, so get your sword out, Max. Or Chris, I don't want to fucking call you. You got Max and Chris in your name. So, you want to get your sword out. Now, most people, when they're pointing at someone, they point just straight at them like this. That doesn't actually, that misses out on a huge amount of damage, and it also, you lose a bit of reach in it as well. What you're going to do is you want to actually, so yeah, stop, just stay still, stay still, stay still, stay still. Stay still with your sword out, stay still with your sword out. So, what you want to do is, you actually want to point sort of towards their left arm, sort of like this. You want to be a little bit sideways, but don't do it too much, because what they can do is they can actually go around and kill you from your left, which is sort of like, yeah, you see this whole area is open right here. So you want to make sure you're just a little bit tilted, a little bit to the left. And so, therefore you deal more damage because you're hitting more limbs, and you're also, so I'll show an example of it. So it's sort of sideways hitting and stuff. It's very effective, very good. And so lunge timing is another thing I want to talk about, which sometimes I don't even take into consideration because I just feel a little bit too lazy sometimes. But so Max, just start like fighting me, properly just start trying to kill me and shit. So you want to do is you sort of want to wait until maybe they've finished a lunge or so. I showed that example really badly, but basically you want to wait until they've sort of reached the end of a lunge, and then you go in for the kill. Because think about it, every time you do a lunge, there's this time where the sword is in its idling position where it can barely do any damage. So you want to make sure that you kill them or go in for the attack right before their lunge finishes. Because if you go in for the attack when their lunge does finish, of course it takes time to walk to them, and of course they would have a new lunge by then, and also ping different makes a difference. Maybe on their screen they've already started lunging at you, so you want to make sure that when you're going in for the kill, you go right at the end, right in the end of the lunge, because that gets them right when they're in the idling position. And so, another thing is, let me see. Right, so I don't really know a name for this, because this is sort of my own strategy which I've sort of made, which is, I call it, I don't know, fucking click fooling or something. I don't know a name for it. But basically, sometimes when you're fighting the opponent, right, you don't actually lunge and you just slash. It's sort of a risky strategy, but basically the idea behind it is that if they actually come for me and attack, so Chris, just come towards me and start attacking me, right? Just keep on going forward, right? It sort of gives you a lot of time. I mean, you can instantly go into your lunge position, because when you're slashing, of course, it only requires one more click to go into your lunge position. So slash, yeah, slash lunge, but you've got to be sort of fast about it. So I'll be slashing, you come towards me, and it's sort of just, it's very good at allowing you to have a quick lunge without you being in your idling position, and it's extremely useful. I use it all the time. I don't always use it though, because, you know, like I said, you want to change around your playstyle sometimes. You want to make sure that you're not pretty predictable, because if someone knows that you always like to be in your slashing position, then maybe going offensively on them is a more efficient strategy against them. Because sometimes maybe they make a mistake with their slashing strategies and it doesn't 100% work. I don't know, actually, I don't really know how to counter the strategy because I've never really seen many other people using it before. But yeah, so a couple other things as well is that you want to learn about wiggling. So you know how I said wiggling earlier, right? You wiggle, you hit more limbs. This time, I want you to learn about, just think about it. So you got to think on client to server. So, you know, we play a game, not everything travels at the speed of light. You know, this little counter, 64 milliseconds. It means that his sort of position, his sort of player data takes 64 milliseconds to get to the server. And then it takes my amount of ping, I don't know how much ping I have, for me to get to the server. So it probably takes, I don't know, probably takes like a tenth of a second for me to receive his player data. And the reason why I'm coming onto this is because, oh, I forgot what I was fucking saying, but wait, let me remember. Oh yeah, so you want to always be wiggling, because sometimes maybe on their screen, say they're rushing you, on their screen maybe they've already got to you and they're already starting to deal damage. But if you're always wiggling, even if you're really far away from them, on their screen they'll see you wiggling, and then maybe on their screen, my sword will deal them damage and they will die on my screen. So it's extremely hard to show an example of this, but okay, I'm trying to figure out how to show an example of this. Because it sort of looks like this is where people start accusing people of reach as well, because they do this and it sort of shows high stud counters because they die on their screen, even though I'm like 5-10 studs away. So you know how I'm facing you right now, Max, right? I just want you to constantly keep on trying to face me while you're fighting, so hopefully you can try and just get me straight on, right? So just keep on following me, face on, right? And now get your sword out and just keep slashing. Yeah, you see that? So I just hit him from really far away. Perfect example, because I didn't actually hit him on my screen. He probably got hit on his screen. Is that true? Can you confirm that? You got hit on your screen, didn't you? Just fucking say yes. I don't care if it's true yet. Yeah, exactly. Alright, so they can actually get dealt damage on their own screen, which is why always wiggling is extremely useful, because if you're wiggling on their screen, of course, they will start dying on their own screen. So I like to just over wiggle because it deals huge damage in the end result. And so some of the last things that you gotta learn your opponent's weaknesses, right? So sometimes your opponent maybe as a fighting you, right? So Max, just start fighting me, right? Alright, so just keep on just actually try and fight against me properly. Right, so yeah. So one thing I've noticed is that he's not really lunging a lot, so, and also he just messed up the timing there. So he sort of went in for the kill, so I sort of managed to attack him there. But I noticed one thing, he wasn't lunging a lot, so it makes rushing him really easily. You can learn your opponent's weaknesses. So, alright, keep on lunging a lot more, Max, and just fight again, right? Keep lunging more. Another thing, and sort of, can you just turn more to the right? Turn your sword more to the right, as an example. Like, a lot more to the right. Right? So maybe sometimes their sword's off, so you can go in from the side where you see their body, and you fucking get him like that. And so now also turn to the left. Turn to the left this time. Turn to the left this time. A lot more to the left. Right? So now I see their side is done. This side, the left side, is most uncommonly hit because it's more risky because their sword's on the left, and you go in from the left, and sometimes that catches people off guard because not many people go in from the left. So you gotta just sort of read your opponent for what they're doing wrong, which is basically what I'm coming out to say. And oh yeah, so another thing as well. Now this one requires a lot more practice, and you can't really always learn in a tip, but you just want to learn W holding. So Max, just start attacking me normally, right? I'm just gonna fucking W hold. You want to learn how to W hold like that. It's pretty risky, and let's just keep W hold. You keep trying to attack me, I'll just keep I'll keep W holding. But basically, you just want to practice it because it makes your offensive strategy extremely powerful, because sometimes it's sort of like sword fighting is a strength game, maybe. It just depends on how well you utilize everything. Okay, that didn't fucking work, but basically you wanna practice your W holding a bit. W holding is extremely useful sometimes, so you just wanna practice your W holding and try and just get as many kills out of W holding as possible. But sometimes you can still W hold with a little bit of assistance. So Max, keep on doing the stuff, just keep on killing me, Chris, Max. Sometimes you don't have to W hold straight away. So I'm gonna W hold now. Alright, that didn't work. I sort of waited too long because you got too close to me. Alright, do it again. And W hold like that. That was a perfect example of a W hold. That was pretty good. But basically you W hold at different times where it sort of catches them off guard. Ideally once they've reached the end of their lunge, like I said about lunge timing. And one last tip I want to talk about is this only works against people with really bad ping, but if they have really bad ping, you're sort of screwed and you have to sort of stick to one strategy mostly, and that's just literally just W holding. Because think about it, if their ping is like 500 milliseconds, that means they could probably attack you from like 10 studs away on your screen, and it will be from extremely far away they'd be able to attack you from, and they'd probably start killing you. You'd be like 20 studs away. You'd be like, how the fuck do they do that? And my answer is that they got a garbage router and they're hitting you on their screen, despite the fact you're like 15 studs away on your screen. So the only way you counter that is sort of you just trying to kill them as fast as possible. You have to try and just rush them, and you have to W hold them as fast as possible, because you can take advantage of their ping difference. If they have bad ping, it's still the same for them, because even though they have huge latency, they won't know that you've hit them on their screen from far away. They'll just see that you have actually hit them from like 15 studs away on their screen. So ping's bad both ways. You can kill people with their own ping both ways. So yeah, if you're against someone with bad ping, just rush them mostly, and yeah, that should work. And that's basically about it. That's basically everything. Alright, that's it. Adios.